So, what really makes a marriage work? And maybe more importantly, what makes one fail? We often point to the big, explosive fights as the problem. But what if the real threat is something much quieter? Today, we're diving into the true engine of a healthy marriage and its destructive opposite.
So here's what we're going to break down. First, we'll pinpoint the real relationship killer. Then, we'll get into the toxic cycle of retaliation. But don't worry, we won't stay there. We'll explore the engine of health, get really clear on what forgiveness actually is, and finish up with how all of this leads to building emotional safety. All right, let's jump right in. What is that quiet daily threat I was just talking about? Let's uncover it in our first section, the real relationship killer. Seriously, think about it for a second. When a relationship is in trouble, what do we automatically assume is the cause? Usually, it's the initial mistake, right? The harsh words, the broken promise, something one person did. But is that what's really doing the lasting damage?
Well, it turns out the answer is a pretty surprising no. The original offense, that's just the spark. The real destructive fire is the cycle of behavior that we ignite in response to that spark. And that, right there, brings us to the real villain of our story. Section 2, the cycle of retaliation. So what is retaliation exactly? It's more than just being angry. It's the conscious choice to make your partner pay for the hurt they caused. It's emotional punishment. And every single time we do it, it's like we're taking a sledgehammer to the very foundations of trust and intimacy. And we all have these weapons in our arsenal, don't we? The cold shoulder, those sarcastic little jabs that are designed to sting, withholding a hug or a kind word to make a point. And, maybe the most toxic of them all, bringing up old wounds, turning today's small disagreement into a trial for every mistake they've ever made.
And you can see how this cycle just spirals downward, right? It starts with an offense. Could be big, could be small. Then the retaliation begins. You punish, so they punish back. With every single round, trust gets chipped away. You stop feeling safe. And the inevitable result? You just drift apart. You become two individuals living under the same roof instead of a team.
Okay, that's the problem. It's pretty bleak. But here's the good news. That is not the only path. There is a powerful alternative. Let's pivot to the solution in Section 3, the engine of health. I love this central idea. Think about it. An engine doesn't just sit there, right? It creates power. It moves you forward, gets you out of the ditch and back onto the road. Well, that's what forgiveness does. It's not some passive feeling. It's an active, powerful force that moves a relationship away from all that accumulated hurt and toward genuine health.
I mean, when you put it side by side like this, the choice couldn't be more stark, could it? Retaliation is a one-way street to destruction, fear, and disconnection. But forgiveness opens up a totally different path, one that leads to healing, safety, and a restored connection. The outcomes are polar opposites.
Okay, so forgiveness is the engine. We get that. But what does that actually mean? Because let's be honest, this is where a lot of us get stuck thanks to some big misconceptions. So let's clear those up in Section 4, what forgiveness really is.
Now, this is so important. Forgiveness is not a feeling you just wait for to show up. It is an active choice. It's a decision you make. It's you standing right in the middle of your hurt and saying, you know what? The cycle of destruction stops with me. I'm choosing to open a door for something better.
And let's get one thing straight, because this is a big one. Forgiving your partner does not mean you're saying, hey, what you did was totally okay. Not at all. It doesn't magically erase the hurt. It's a strategic decision to put down your weapons, to stop the bleeding, and to prevent the wound from getting infected with retaliation. That's it right there. Forgiveness is the act of disarming. You're making a conscious choice to not keep a running list of your partner's failures, just waiting to be used as ammunition in the next fight. You're choosing to build a future instead of constantly relitigating the past. So, why go through all this trouble? What's the ultimate payoff for choosing forgiveness over retaliation? Well, that brings us to our final and maybe most important section, building emotional safety.
This is what we're aiming for. This is the whole point. The cycle of retaliation turns your relationship into a place of fear, where you're constantly on edge, just waiting for the next attack. But the engine of forgiveness, that transforms the very same relationship into a safe harbor, a place where you can be imperfect, where you can be vulnerable and honest without the fear of being punished for it.
And from that safety, everything else can start to grow again.
That connection you thought was lost for good, it can be restored. The way you talk to each other softens. That feeling of being a team, it gets rebuilt. And it's only in that safe space that real, deep healing can finally begin.
You know, the stakes here are incredibly high. This isn't just a nice to have for a long-term relationship. Without the engine of forgiveness running, every single relationship will eventually, inevitably, collapse under the sheer weight of its own accumulated hurt.
And that's really what it all boils down to. It's a choice we have to make not just once, but over and over and over again. On one side, you have the path of retaliation, and we know that leads to destruction. And on the other, you have the path of forgiveness, which leads to health.
So, I'll leave you with this one last question, one to really think about. In every interaction, every disagreement, every single day, which cycle are you fueling?